Well, hello again and welcome to another edition of the Speed Bag. Today, a little segment I like to call Compare and Contrast. So Ronda Rousey got whooped up on at UFC 207, as you probably know by now. After all that Fear the Return hype, turns out the only people who needed to be afraid were the ones who had money down on Rousey. Amanda Nunes put her away in 48 seconds, and if you remember the aftermath of Rousey's loss to Holly Holm, you know what came next. Savage memes, bro. But here we enter a familiar cycle. Some people are going to want to revel in Rousey's misery, either because they just don't like her or they remember at times in the past when she liked to revel in other people's misery. Some other people, though, they're just going to want to shout, "Leave Ronda alone," into the internet void until, we all go back to mocking someone they don't like. And then, we wait for the chance to do it all again. Which reminds me of the last fighter to face this kind of abuse for the sin of losing a fight. And that is Conor McGregor. And really, when you think about it, there are some useful comparisons between the two, especially considering the very interesting years that they had. For instance, McGregor, he started off 2016 with a humiliating loss to Nate Diaz. That was a man who McGregor had berated on every single media outlet the UFC could think of, calling him a wannabe gangster. Then he goes out there and he loses. And he didn't just lose, he got embarrassed and submitted. And then after that, it seemed like something that could wreck his whole Irish Ric Flair image. And you best believe the memes were fierce after that one.
I took the chance going at 170, but Nate came in.
I'm not surprised.
But what did McGregor do? He insisted on running it back. Immediate rematch, same weight class, a few months later. Even changed his whole career trajectory around in order to focus on that fight. He pulled out of that XXX movie, let Michael Bisping trade one-liners with Vin Diesel instead, and then he came back and he won. Compare that to Rousey, right? She went out there, she lost a fight to Holm. It happens, right? It's the first time it ever happened to her, but for every other mixed martial arts fighter, losing is just part of the game. Except that for Rousey, it sent her into hiding, plunged her into a near-suicidal depression, according to her. She wouldn't fight again for over a year. She did, however, show up to host Saturday Night Live. She kept pursuing that acting career, and when she did come back, it was on her terms, which essentially meant avoiding any uncomfortable questions about her past or her future. And then when she got in the cage again, she lost. Badly. Now, I don't bring this up because I want to pile on Rousey. God knows there's enough of that going on already. But I do think it highlights some interesting differences between the UFC's top two superstars. Because before UFC 207, we saw this clip, right, of Rousey talking about how fighting was the most important thing to her. But yet, throughout all of 2016, we saw McGregor actually living that philosophy. He went through a rough time, and he improved as a result of it. You could actually see him becoming a better and more resilient fighter in that second Nate Diaz fight. He faced adversity, and he grew as a result of it. I don't really know if you can say the same for Rousey. The good news is it's not over yet, or it doesn't have to be. She could still come back, make the necessary changes, learn the necessary lessons, and then shut us all up exactly the way McGregor did. Or she could decide that prying open the doors to the UFC for all female fighters is legacy enough, and then she could focus on her acting, whether it's in action movies or pro wrestling. I know which one I'd rather see, but then I don't watch pro wrestling, and I still think the best XXX was Ice Cube. I kind of prefer a good old-fashioned redemption plot to a great escape story. But hey, that's just me.